Hi, my name is Gina Gallardo, and this is my final for EX3304. Today, we're going to talk about the biomechanics of how to shoot a free throw in basketball. Here is a simple example of how a free throw should look like. Today, we're using both Emily, M. Terrell, and also Hudson or Huddy Mac Michon. And here's his example of how to shoot a free throw. Make note of the difference in forms used, as you can see Huddy shooting the free throw, whereas you just saw M shooting it. Also notice both of the players' release point. They're both a little off, but we'll talk about that later on in the video. So first we're going to begin with the preparatory phase. This phase is basically everything leading up to before you get ready to shoot the free throw. Notice how she's directly adjacent to the floor. First, she's going to be shoulder width apart. She's going to have the ball in her dominant hand, which in this case is her right hand, and then she's going to have her opposite hand supporting the ball. Then she's going to have her dominant foot aligned with the middle of the hoop, with her right foot slightly above her left. This is also the phase where the athlete makes sure he or she is balanced and does whatever rituals he or she is used to before actually shooting the free throw. Next, we have the backswing phase, where the athlete will use his or her body in order to allow the ball to be ejected into the air towards the hoop. Here we have hip flexion at a 50 to 90 degree angle. It really just depends on how low the athlete gets. Next, we have knee flexion at a 80 to 90 degree angle. Here, I would say she's about 90 degrees. Next, we have elbow flexion at about 90 degrees. You can see where her elbow and her arm are aligned. From the anatomical start position, her elbow is flexed about 90 degrees. And here's Huddy's backswing phase, just so that you can see the difference between the two. Notice how Huddy gets a little bit lower than M. His knee flexion is at a perfect 90 degree angle, so is his elbow. You can see he gets really nice and low before ejecting the ball into the air. Following that, Huddy will go into the force phase, where he will use his body in order to eject the ball into the air towards the hoop. First, he'll use his biceps in order to fully extend his elbow from a 90 degree angle to a 0 degree, if you're thinking anatomically. If you're not, it starts at a 90 and then it goes to a 180. Then you'll see the hip extension from a 90 degree angle to a 0 degree angle, again if you're thinking anatomically, but here you'll use your hip flexors and your hamstrings in order to flex your hips. Next, you'll extend your knees to about a 90 degree angle, as you can see Huddy, where his red shorts connect and his skin. It's a perfect 90 degree angle. As he extends upwards, he's also going to use his shoulder extension from about a 15 degree angle to about a 170 degree angle to fully extend his arm parallel so that it's adjacent to the floor. Moving along, this takes us into our final phase, which is the follow-through phase. And this is how it's going to look like. So after she uses her full body to fully extend her elbows, her knees, and her shoulder, you'll also see that she goes into plantar flexion and then dorsiflexion when she fully extends and then comes back down to the floor. Her arms and her shoulders fully extend to about a 170 degree angle. You can see that at the dot that's circled 1. And then at the 2, you can see that the wrist is flexed at a 90 degree angle. And then, of course, you can see the plantar flexion as she goes up, and then dorsiflexion as she goes down. To accentuate it a little bit more, as you can see, when Huddy shoots the shot, he plantar flexes the foot about a 20 degree angle. And here he uses his calves in order to flex it to plantiflex. Then as he comes down, you'll see that he dorsiflexes it. So that basically sums up the biomechanics of how to shoot a free throw. Thank you for watching this video.